So I want to talk to you a little bit about doubt. And I want to tie it to our gospel reading. But first, I want to point out something that you probably weren't aware of. Unless you came to Matins and you heard the reading every Sunday during the Matins prayers before the liturgy, we read one of the resurrection accounts. And this morning we read the resurrection account, or part of the resurrection account, by Mark. And in that account, it says that the disciples, the apostles, doubted twice. Mary Magdalene saw the risen Lord. She came to the disciples. I saw the risen Lord. They didn't believe her. Second time, Luke and Cleopas are on the road to Emmaus. The Lord appears to them. They run back and said, "He's alive. He's risen from the dead. We saw him." And again, Mark's gospel tells us, and they didn't believe him. Finally, Jesus shows up, and what does it say? It says, and he rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. The apostles. And you want to know something even more interesting? In Matthew's account of the resurrection, because we had a baptism yesterday, so we read the account from Matthew at the baptism, it says that when Jesus appeared to the apostles on the mountain in Galilee, and they all saw him, they see him, and it says, and some still doubted. You know that old saying, seeing is believing? It's not true. It's not true. And I bet we've all had experiences in our life where we saw something, but it was so amazing or unexpected or unexplainable that we just didn't believe it, even though we saw it. Right? I mean, I'm sure we've all had experiences like that. Now, unfortunately, we live in a cultural context that's been dominated by several hundred years of Protestant theology. And so a lot of us have this hang-up. And this hang-up is we think that we have to have some sort of perfect faith in order to be a Christian. Look, even the apostles didn't have perfect faith. They doubted. Now, is faith important? Sure, it's important. Is doubting a good thing? No, usually doubting is not a good thing unless you fight through it and come through to some deeper thing. But is doubt, is the game canceled because of doubt? What do you call that in business where it breaks the deal? Is it a deal breaker? Right? If you doubt? No. We all come to God with weaknesses. Some of us are better at some things, and some of us are really bad at other things. Personally, I've never had any problem with believing. I don't think I've ever really, in my whole life, struggled with doubt. I don't know why. It's just, I've struggled with lots of other things, but it's just not been one of the things that's been tough for me. But because I've struggled with other areas, I understand that for people who struggle with doubt, like some of the apostles did, it's not a deal breaker. You know, I love this story about the talents that we read in the liturgy today, about the 5 talents, the 2 talents, and the 1 talent. Because I've always tended to think of myself as a sort of one-talent priest, right? I don't have much grace. When I thought, how can I say this? I did some math this morning. And I asked myself the question, okay, what if this guy who received only the one talent, what if he had put, like the master said, at least you could have put it in the bank and got interest? I thought, if you put $1,000 in the bank at 2%, how long would it take to double it? Right? Right? Because the other guy, the guy who got 5, he doubled it. The guy who got 2, he doubled it. But the other guy buried it. And the master said, at least you could have put it in the bank. Right? So at 2% interest, if you do absolutely nothing, you will double your deposit in 35 years. That's half a lifetime. All you have to do is the minimum. So one of my favorite pieces of advice to give people is ask yourself, what's the least you can do? Really? Oh, no. See, what gets you is your pride. Your pride says, no, I can do more than that. I can do more than that, but then you never do. Because you're so proud that you won't do the small thing. So let's all make a deal here. We'll all humble ourselves and ask ourselves, what's the least I can do, right? Okay, I can help with the website a little at church, right? Maybe he could preach the gospel and convert Indonesia, but the least he can do, right? Let's all think and say, God, what's the least I can do? Because if you spend half your lifetime doing the least, you've already doubled the grace God has given you. 2% interest. I don't know what interest God's bank gives, but I'm just figuring 2% is about what you get on an investment these days. And, if we'd asked this question in the 90s, it would be like 8% interest, right? But it's about 2% nowadays. So what's my point? My point is this. We all have abilities in one area, and we all have weaknesses in other. And some of us have weaknesses even believing. It's hard for us to believe. That's okay. That's not a game breaker. Ask yourself the question, what's the least I can do? And do that. You can always do more later if you want. Do the least, and God will take that and bring you into heaven. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.